Hello, this is Joe Pearson, the project planner for this application. This is the presentation for the Casa Aliento major modification and map project, filed by Yeneth with Community Development Partners. The project includes two requests. The first request is for a parcel map. The proposed map will subdivide the existing 1.81 acre lot to create two parcels. Parcel 1 will be an approximately 0.5 acre site and will contain the existing Denny's restaurant and associated parking. Parcel 2 will be an approximately 1.23 acre site and will contain the approved Casa Aliento residential development and associated parking and open space areas. In conjunction with the proposed parcel map, the project includes site improvements, which will consist of reconfiguration and expansion of the parking lot, minor frontage improvements, reconstruction of the Denny's trash enclosure to meet current standards, and associated landscape improvements. The project also includes a request for administrative parking relief to decrease the number of required parking spaces on parcel 1, the Denny's parcel, from 47 spaces to a minimum of 44 spaces, and to allow for up to 11 compact parking spaces in accordance with section 16561 of the Oxnard City Code. No new buildings are proposed as part of this application. The project site is located at 1255 North Oxnard Boulevard. It contains the approved apartment project as well as the Denny's restaurant. Shown here are photos of the existing development. The existing Denny's is currently operational, and as I apartments project. The area surrounding the project generally consists of commercial auto-oriented uses to the north and south of the project. There are existing single-family dwellings to the west and Oxnard Boulevard to the east, with park and residential uses on the other side. The city's 2030 general plan land use designation for the subject site is commercial general. And the commercial general land use allows retail centers and freestanding commercial uses along arteries and may also include office and other residential uses. The zoning of the site is general commercial plan development, which also allows for other types of retail and commercial uses consistent with the 2030 general plan. A little bit of background. On October 24th, 1968, the Planning Commission approved the original permit for the site, permitting the construction of a 2-story, 70-unit motor hotel, a manager's apartment, and a coffee shop, and parking areas and related site improvements. More recently, pursuant to Assembly Bill 83 or AB 83 and the 2020 California Health and Safety Code, on April 29th, 2021, the permittee filed a zone clearance request to convert the hotel to a supportive housing apartment complex. Pursuant to the bill and the Health and Safety Code, projects receiving money from the Coronavirus Relief Fund, established by the Federal Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, which acquired or rehabilitated hotels or motels to provide housing for individuals or families, are not subject to discretionary review and are deemed consistent with the city's zoning and 2030 general plan. Subsequently, in September of 2021, the Planning Division approved the zone clearance, allowing the change in use to convert the 70-unit hotel to a permanent supportive housing apartment complex. At that time, no additions or exterior changes were proposed, and the permittee was simply required to obtain building permits for interior tenant improvements for the conversion. Later on January 23rd, 2023, the Plan Division approved a request for site modifications to accommodate the conversion of the former Vagabond Inn into a 70-unit supportive housing complex with 69 very low-income studio units and one bedroom manager's unit. The approval also included the ministerial review for a parking standard modification pursuant to the state density bonus law and Oxnard City Code. Pursuant to state density bonus law, a city shall not impose any minimum vehicular parking requirements on a supportive housing development as defined in section 50675.14 of the Health and Safety Code. Therefore, no parking is required for the Casa Aliento residential project. As shown, the site improvements that were approved as part of the minor modification consisted of interior and exterior alterations that will consist of facade changes, new landscaping, a 900 square foot outdoor lounge and community garden area. This has already been approved as previously mentioned and is shown here for reference only. As shown in the site plan, the proposed Casa Aliento parcel will have access via Glenwood Drive and Outer Oxnard Boulevard via existing driveways. The Glenwood driveway will be fenced as it is a exit-only driveway. The proposed Denny's parcel will be accessible via an existing driveway on Glenwood Drive and a new exit-only driveway on Glenwood Drive. The proposed and existing driveway will provide access to the site and allow for vehicular circulation around the site. The majority of the improvements will occur on parcel 1, which will contain the Denny's restaurant. The improvements will consist of parking lot improvements to expand the parking lot and fill in the existing pool area. The first driveway on Glenwood Drive would still function as the primary driveway. The improvements will also separate the circulation and parking areas from the Casa Aliento development on parcel 2. As previously stated in the background section, Casa Aliento received prior approval for many of the site improvements shown on the plans, including the revised open space and parking areas. The proposed improvements under the requested minor modification includes the proposed fencing and parking lot improvements to separate the parking and access from the Denny's parcel. The proposed improvements will be required as part of the proposed parcel map. While the project focuses on parking lot and vehicular access improvements, pedestrian access improvements are also proposed. The existing driveways will be reconstructed to meet current standards and accessibility requirements. A new sidewalk will be constructed along the frontage of parcel 2, which will connect to the existing sidewalk to the north and a future sidewalk to the south if that site is redeveloped in the future. The development of the proposed project furthers many of the policies identified in the 2030 general plan, as identified in the staff report. Some of the key policies are shown here. As the development will improve an older development near Oxnard Boulevard with a renovated commercial site, enhancements to the landscaped parking lot, will incorporate native and water-wise plants and is conditioned to comply with the city's landscape and water conservation standards, as well as is consistent with the allowable commercial general land uses and will be compatible with the adjacent uses as designed. The proposed improvements can be found consistent with the 2030 general plan. The project is subject to the General Commercial Plan Development Zone District. Development tables were incorporated into the staff report showing and comparing applicable development standards for this project. Two variations related to parking standards are being requested, which include a reduction in the amount of parking required for the Denny's and an allowance of compact parking up to a maximum of 25%. Pursuant to the Oxnard City Code, the Denny's requires 47 parking spaces. The proposed Denny's site will have a total of at least 44 parking spaces, which is less than the required on-site parking requirement of 47. The on-site parking requirement for the proposed development is shown in the following table. The Casa Aliento project does not require any parking pursuant to the approved density bonus previously discussed in the background slide. The Oxnard City Code allows the Planning Commission to grant administrative relief from the parking provisions of the Oxnard City Code when a requirement is shown to be excessive. Pursuant to the Oxnard City Code, the applicant has provided a parking study prepared by a professional traffic engineer registered by the state, demonstrating that the required parking is excessive and showing that the amount of parking that should be required for the proposed use. The study used ITE's parking generation manual to project peak parking demand. Based on the assessment, peak parking demand is typically 33 vehicles or less throughout the week and 44 vehicles on the weekend. Therefore, it is projected that there will be sufficient capacity to meet peak parking demand for the Denny's restaurant. The project is also requesting to be allowed to provide 11 of the provided parking spaces as compact parking spaces. While the standard spaces are required to be 9 feet in width by 19 feet in length, and compact parking spaces are required to have a minimum dimension of 8 feet in width and 16 feet in width and length. 11 of the proposed spaces are compact due to the width of the spaces being 12 inches short of the standard requirement of 9 feet in width. Given that the spaces comply with the standard length requirement and are still 8 feet in width, they will still be able to safely accommodate most vehicles in the same manner as a standard space without impacting the drive aisles, which is often the primary concern of compact parking. Therefore, administrative relief from this provision is included within the major modification application. In accordance with sections 15301 of the existing facilities of the California Environmental Quality Act, projects involving negligible or no expansion of use beyond that existing at the time of the lead agency's determination may be found to be exempt from the requirements of CEQA. Also in accordance with section 15315, minor land divisions of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, projects consisting of the division of property in urbanized areas zoned for residential, commercial, or industrial use into 4 or fewer parcels when the division is in conformance with the general plan and zoning, and all services and access to the proposed parcel to local standards are available. The project may be found to be exempt from the requirements of CEQA. The project includes site improvements, which will consist of a parking lot, frontage, traffic enclosure, and landscape improvements to an existing development. No new buildings or uses are proposed. The project also includes the subdivision of an existing developed lot into 2 parcels. And all future proposals would also be subject to compliance with the state California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. The project is also surrounded by urban uses, and the project site has no value for habitat or endangered, rare, or threatened species, as again, the site is currently developed and operational. Additionally, the project will not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality, again, as the site is currently existing. No exceptions to the exemptions apply to defeat the exemption. Therefore, staff has determined that there is no substantial evidence that the project will have a significant effect on the environment and recommends that the Planning Commission accept the notice of exemption. Some of the project itself is subject to many conditions of approval provided in the attached resolutions. Some of the key conditions are that the project is granted for a period of 36 months, that the developer shall process the parcel map associated with this permit concurrent with the site improvement plans. The parcel map shall be processed for recordation concurrent with the approval of the major modification site improvement plans. And lastly, that the project dedicate the sidewalk and make improvements to construct the sidewalk, as well as other ADA driveway improvements. The project site is located within the Carriage Square neighborhood. On April 17th, 2023, the project was presented to the public during the city's community workshop meeting. Notices were mailed out to all property owners in Carriage Square neighborhood. During the meeting, no public comments were received regarding the project. Consistent with public noticing requirements, the Planning Commission hearing was advertised in the newspaper with an on-site posting and by mail to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. To date, staff has not received any concerns or public comments regarding the project. Based on the information contained in this presentation and staff report and associated attachments, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act guideline section 15301, existing facilities, and 15315, minor land divisions, and adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council approve planning and zoning permit 22-304 for the parcel map, subject to certain findings and conditions, and adopt a resolution approving planning and zoning permit 23-55001, major modifications to plan development permit number 78, subject to certain findings and conditions.